Hello, this is Brian Whitten and ET Art. I wanted to put this video up today. I did want to actually cover this in the last one, but it was getting a bit long and I thought, no, I'll make a separate video. And I wanted to start off with going over the globe here to let us know, first of all, that the wars that we've been having are where they are not for the reasons we think. They are there for, well, what's made out to be a geotechnical sense. The things I'm about to tell you now are knowledgeable and within books that would be found in every Masonic lodge in the world, as well as books in the Vatican. And I can assure you our leaders are well aware that planet Earth here does not spin around the sun in a natural manner as we are taught in our schools. We are taught a load of rubbish, and it is directed at us from the UK, the royals in royal families of Europe, and our history and the truth of our earth is nothing but a load of rubbish. Now, what I wanted to do first of all is I put this inserted picture here. This is the inserted picture of the contact, or at least the impact, that was at the bottom of South America that tilted the axis. Our leaders know what has happened. That is this one here, the red one. Okay, I put that there because this is one line. If I twist that way and go the other side of the globe, it is the other line here. This one here. Okay, now I've already gone through this in my other video. This is the nuclear tests. Okay, this one here. It's right in line with Ayers Rock. It's the same line as longitude as here, which is Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Okay, so this is not coincidental. This is our leaders getting together to start a war to show they can drop that bomb there to try and straighten this globe up. The reason they were doing that is the initial whip speed increases the rotation of our planet by 1,000 kilometers an hour. Technically, it would kill everybody. And this is what they tell people, which is how they get these people to do this. And say, oh, we're all going to die anyway, let's do this. And this way we might get a chance of straightening the globe. They know full well they can't straighten the globe. For Brian Whitten to work that out, and nobody else on the planet's surface to work that out, that you cannot tilt the axis unless you're in line with plane of the sun. Once again, I'll insert a couple of diagrams of cross sections of the pyramid. But tell me that I'm the only one? I don't know. This is the beginning. If you look at Australia here, the beginning of the impact on this side, I'll insert it for you actually, is this. The leaving is there, and the strike is here. That's why all these wars are here. Here's your Vietnam, carpet bombing of Laos. All these wars here, where they want to have another war, they want to have a war now. South China Sea. Still same area here. Oh, no, it wasn't that, it's North Korea. Same area. This one here. I'll do an inserted image. There were two comets that came up that removed the east coast of Australia. They were sitting in the bottom of the ocean, just here. I'll do an inserted picture. See them sitting in the bottom of the ocean? This red dot here? The US nuclear test at Bikini Atoll in the South Pacific. So we've covered all these with wars. They're all on the same line of longitude. Let's go back over here. This is America. New York. One of those there is the new impact. This one here is going to be on the 21st of December this year. Sorry, next year, 2020, that's happening. This one here, 9/11. Look where it is. Down here. Well, the British had a war there, remember that? In Argentina. And where were they talking about now wanting to have a war? Oh, Venezuela. Yet again, let's go to the other side. This is, I'll show you an inserted image here. This is off a glyph. We've already worked out that they rotate, they're vertical planes of magnetism of the sun. There's two of them. We travel across them, or put it this way, the Earth's movement towards the plane or away from the plane of the sun when we left it, and our movement towards it each day travels 67.6 kilometres. That's exactly what it is. So obviously in 1,000 years, it takes roughly 1,000 years to cross it. So if you add 1,000 3 zeros to your 67, you're travelling 67,000 miles through space in the time to cross it. It does not change the axis. The horizontal vertical plane, the very, very strong horizontal plane, well, once again, we never ever get picked up, or we cross it every year. You know, you cross it twice a year, every year. The reason it doesn't work is the axis is bent, and it's only 3 days to cross it. So the magnetic pole does not have a chance to do it, and I would also suspect the Earth is slightly off skew in respect to the precession. So in other words, it comes up a little bit offside like this, not straight. So when it gets straight, is when we get there. They drop a couple of comets to straighten it up so that it can get grasped by the plane. That is in the lessons. Here we have the other line though, look. So they bomb over this side in New York. Say it was these guys over the other side of the world that did it. So then they go over the other side of the world, which is on the other line, and bomb Iraq, Afghanistan and all these places in the Middle East for exactly the same bloody reason. They're making out like they've got to tilt the globe. But in reality, Brian Whitten isn't the only one that says you cannot tilt the globe. It says in the pyramid you cannot tilt the globe. You have to be in line with the plane of the sun. So why is this all happening? You're telling me that I'm the only one that knows that? I'm not the only one. They're telling lies to the people that are getting them to do this. Our leaders are lying to the people about the likelihood of this twisting the globe. You know what all this is about? It's about getting the kids. The people in here, when you go and bomb the living crap out of it and kill all the adults, who comes along and gets the kids? They closed the boys' homes over in Australia. Then they opened up a family court. The family court in Australia is doing exactly that, being designed. That's why you're getting a lot of rubbish being spoken by our politicians now. They know full well, and in this country I can tell you now, their judgment days within 6 weeks. It's going to be before November. If they're in court or hearings, 97 of them on my birthday. I'll show you that inserted image. It's 97 it says on this rock here. When you move the light properly and you see the man kneeling down. 97 is for the amount of hearings that are going to be on that day. 97 added to the day I uploaded the video is my birthday, the 16th of November, and 9 and 7 are 16. It will be the 16th of November to have the hearings of Australia politicians on that day. You have to come in before then. They will come in on the 27th of October. That's because you put somebody in my house. It took something from my son. It's the same son that found this rock twice. The very same son is the very one they'll come in through our atmosphere on his birthday. So why is this here? If this is the case, it's the children. What they're doing is starting these wars so the people that live in this land here and all around the world that seem to think it's okay to rape, murder and eat children, and this adrenochrome that you get from drinking the blood, so they torment the child, put fear in them, kill them and drain the blood as they're doing it because that's what they get their high from. You're all about to get smashed, I know that much. But I wanted to show you that because this is not coincidence. You know, and these orange ones here, or the yellow ones I put up, are where they want to talk about having a war. They're on the same lines. Bombing the lateral this way and bombing this way, trying to tilt the globe. You think that's a load of rubbish? Who owns the biggest house in London? The Blitzkrieg. Did you ever learn about a place in Germany called Dresden? There was more bombs dropped in on it at the end of the war. Why? Because it's on the line. It had nothing to do with anything else. They were lying to people about why it was going to happen, and it does not straighten. The only way the globe straightens and the axis can be changed, you have to be in plane with the sun to do it. They know full well what I'm telling you is true. That's why all those dots are on those two lines that are on this glyph in Gosford. Now before I move on, I just wanted to show you that this was another rock that my son found in the same hole as this rock. And I found this rock. I found this rock in the same hole. I'll go back to the first rock now. This is the other rock Wilson found in that hole. The reason I wanted to mention this is because the 666 association with this whole process is warning. They are the people that get sorted out when you get to the plane of the sun. I'll show you an inserted image now. This man with his carving knives is at the end of the globe here, and he's at the end of the globe because it's the end of the cycle. And he is dealt with. He is a person on our planet that does this sacrificial killing of children. He is dealt with, make no doubt. And he is dealt with at the time that you get to the end of the cycle, which is meeting the plane of the sun, which is where we are. We are 14 months away, if that, and we are very, very close to them coming into our atmosphere. This rock here, the irony is my son had something taken from him that you had no right to take. And when I say you, I'm talking about the 666 mob. The first time I got my son long enough to be able to have him for Christmas Eve, because you've got to fight for that right in this country, he was 4. That was my first Christmas Eve. And I then went through a process on our Christmas Eve. We got in the car and we drove to Kirribilli House and handed a letter through the fence that was addressed to John Howard, and he got it. I didn't realise John Howard had already made an impression by getting my stepson, my other son, from my marriage. He was my stepson. My wife had a child when I met her. And that child has also met with guided women. Women guided from the system to meet you wherever you are, to then have the relationship, have the children, lock you out of the house and put the children in the pedophile ring, which is what our federal government have created the family court for. It is to protect all of those women and bury the boys. That's what happens. My son then went with me on my first Christmas Eve with him down to deliver this letter. On this rock, it shows the destruction of the house we delivered the letter to, and the other rock. And this rock here, with this line here, we've already gone through that in my last video, putting that little insert under the microscope. This rock here shows him the very destruction of the Parliament that he went and visited, because the same boy has found these rocks. Got a trip in high school to Canberra, in which case he was introduced to the Prime Minister, Miss Gillard, in which case she extended her hand to him and he did not raise his hand. He did tell me this, of course, at the time, and I said, well, normally, son, I would admonish you for such behaviour, but that day's long gone. I said, why didn't you shake her hand? He said, I don't like her. I said, fair enough. There was a day, like I said, it's a very, very sad thing when a good man sells his son, you did the right thing there. But the irony is, you've put somebody in my home under your ploy and your under your scheme, and took from him something you had no right to take. And it is very, very fair that he be the one that drags these rocks out of this river and give them to me, for me to follow up. Because I walked out of something there not being 100% certain my last relationship. I'm 100% certain that one too was directed, just like the very first one that gave me my stepson. That too was directed. Every one of them have by certain members of my family associated with this mob of people that do such things. They siphon their children out down the road to wherever so they can get a better run, more money, or whatever the hell it is you boys and girls do. You're about to meet your end. But the irony is, like I said, the insert there, you can go back and have a look at the video yesterday. I did stop in a point where you can possibly see what it is you need to see. But in that image, there, the comet that lands in America bounces and lands on top of the Canberra Parliament. That's exactly what is written there. Thank you, Wilson, for finding that, because he is going to be the one that gets a last laugh there. Now I've got the top of the Egyptian parchment up. This is a parchment that was found in the 1700s by a Frenchman. And I have sent this, or had it sent to me, and understood what it meant. It was in actual fact the parchment that was telling us the exact date of the meeting of the plane of the sun, which was the 24th of the 12th at 3:30 AM Central Australian time. It will be correct, that's when it's going to happen. That's the top of the plane of the sun up here. The bottom of the plane of the sun is there. It takes 3 days to get across this. When we look at the parchment, I'll get you a wider version. Now this is a wider version, so just excuse the lines here. What we're looking at is this is our unnatural cycle of 6,000 years that we've just finished. When we get in plane with the sun, depending on whether we spin clockwise or anti-clockwise, because that is what this process here does not change the direction of the planet in the way it spins. It changes the way we go around the sun. So in other words, we go around the sun anti-clockwise on one, clockwise on the other. One of them increases the speed of the rotation of the planet, the other one slows the rotation of the planet. That is what the problem is. This problem has existed, and from this inserted image of the plate, an estimate about 15 million years ago, that we've had this situation. The other star that left us has taken up an orbit around Jupiter. We call it Nibiru or Nemesis or whatever. It does appear to have another planet rotating around it as well. It is a dwarf star. It is rotating around Jupiter. This is telling us here that it's 12,000 years that way and 24,000 years this way, where in reality they're not. They're like that because they have to tell us a period to get us to look into what's actually going down. So in other words, the meeting of the plane of the sun here is dire, very dire. It's increased speed of 1,000 kilometers an hour faster, and that snaps every tree on the planet, kills everybody. We get 1,000-foot tidal waves across every landmass. Essentially we all die here. That's without doubt. But to the point is that we've been left all these messages to tell us that they know how to do it, and how to do it with people on the planet so that there is less damage. In other words, they know how to do it. They've done it for 15 million years, and that's what the messages are here about. What I wanted to move on here and let you know that what you're seeing when you're seeing 12,000 years that way and 24,000 years this way is in actual fact exactly the time, and what it is 16. That'll be 16,000 years that way and 16,000 years this way. 1,000 years, when we're talking about 16,000 years, we're not talking about the time it travels in space, and I'll show you what I mean. When we look at the Chirumali Jan complex in India. I will mention once again Praveen Mohan, honestly, if he hadn't have put this up, this was extremely important to me and important to the discovery. So once again, Praveen, this was just paramount, absolutely paramount. It showed the 4 cycles of the planet here, showed that we move out beyond Mars and there's 2 cycles of travel. But it didn't just do that. What it does show you in the lines that come out here in the cycles, that the period of time, if this is a clock face, the period of time it takes for each of these is the same time. Right, so physically it doesn't travel through space any faster, the planet, like its movement through space is the same speed, it just rotates faster or goes slower. That's what it's saying here. That's what this says. It's the same time. It doesn't travel any further or faster or in space going round. So in other words, a year is technically the same time. You understand what I'm getting at? That's what they're saying. They're saying here the year is the same time. It is the day that is varied. And it is varied by a rotational speed faster or slower. So once again, when we come back to this parchment, this is probably a better one without less lines, or at least to show you that that's exactly what it means. That'll be 16 and this is 16. So in other words, it's telling you how long the day is, not how long a year is. So in other words, the rotational speed here puts an increase of so many days on a year. And so does this one. This one here says it's 16 years going that way. But in reality it's the 12,000 years of here. It's the time, the daytime that's working this out. That's what it's doing. I'll tell you what they are. I know you're getting a bit of banding and a bit of light through there. For what we're doing should be fine today. What we're going to do is a calculation now. That 24 hours that we're now going into, our 24 hours is going to change and decrease by 8 hours. That's what's going to happen, and we'll have 16-hour days instead of 8-hour days. If we then work out how many days we're going to have in a year, as opposed to our 365, we multiply 365 and we divide it by 3 because we want to work out that 8 is, you know, a third of 24, so we want to work out how many days extra we're going to get a year. We divide it by 3, that equals 121,666,666. Yet again, this is all over the place, don't worry. And if there's people on this planet that have been told, you'll be the chosen ones, you'll be the chosen ones all right, I can assure you. This is a warning for these people. It is not because you're on the right team. Oh mate, I'm not kidding. So we add that then, we said plus 365, which is how many days we have. So in other words, we're going to have 486,666,666. By the way, the crossing of the plane, 67 kilometres per day. That is the answer. So we're going to get 486 days in a year. That's what we're heading into when we move to where we get in about a year and a half, and I would expect that will be what we end up with. If we go the other way, our 12-hour period, our 365 minus 121, 244 days. So what you'll end up with going slow is 244 days a year, going fast 420 or whatever it was, 486 days. I wanted to show you this image. It was uploaded on one of a group sites that I'm a member of. I won't say these figures here, they're not mine, but that was on, and I have no idea what they are about. They are calculating days and times and whatnot. I stopped this straight away because I understood what it meant, and I counted these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. It's exactly telling us 16 in both directions depending on which way you come in. What I wanted to do was note these. So we've got this one going anti-clockwise, which is the way the Earth spins at the moment. This one going clockwise, right? Clockwise was happening, but it was happening before the last 16,000 years of slow speed, and it happened before the 6,000 years unnatural cycle that we are on. This happened on the way back in from Mars, and I'll show you what happens and the way we stand the globe up. When the globe is pushed out beyond Mars, they lay it over that way. The globe still spins around, still goes around the sun, but it's on an expanding plane like this. So in other words, once they lay it over like this, it just gradually goes out on its own. That is the lesson here. It does not come back on its own. It takes multiple occasions every 1,000 years to hit the globe. They stand it up halfway, and what they do is when they achieve this rotation, they do not spin the Earth back and forwards. They rotate like so. They knock it over that way, they stand it back up that way, they do the outer ring cycles, then they knock it over to bring it back this way, and halfway through they bring it back up that way. And that's how they achieve the rotation difference of the globe itself. So in other words, whether the globe is spinning clockwise or anti-clockwise. The entire sequence is 96,000 years going in one way, and then that goes back the other way, 96,000 going back the other way. Which is why you see these. They change on the way back in, the direction of the globe each time. I wanted to show you that because we have 16 again here. They are 16 in both directions, whether you're going that way or that way. That's what it's telling you there. It also says that when you come back in line with the plane of the sun here, that you're getting these two here. I believe these are comet impacts, telling you when you're going to get them. I would suspect we're going to get other ones here as well. That's why these are here. I think we're looking at here a 4,000 year period, and it's this 4,000 years where we move from here. Whether we're still here or not, I don't know. There seems to be something happening here. See this here? They take us off. By this stage I think we're heading back to Mars, or maybe the civilization's moved. We start a new one here, I don't know. All I'm saying is that is displaying 16 years, or 16. I would expect, like I said, it's going to be exactly that. It's going to be related to the time. It's going to be related to these two comet impacts that are required right there. These two here. Got this angle here like this because they have to straighten the globe up, and this is where they have to do it here. We have to come into the plane of the sun with a lot straighter axis than we've got. We've got 24 degrees on the axis. It needs to be about 12 or thereabouts for the magnetic plane, the horizontal magnetic plane of the sun, which is only 200 kilometers wide, to actually grasp and grip the planet. And that's what happens. And the second one, coming in at New York, is in actual fact going to help slow the planet down as well as the device that's built into the planet. There is obviously something built into the planet that spins around the core. It makes it look bigger. So there's a lot for them to do. They do a lot. They've been doing it what would expect to be 15 million years. If I do this inserted plate, actually, we'll go look for the plate. So this again, once again, is the plate, and like I said, this is what will happen. I believe that what they're going to do is move the moon so it cycles the sun, which is why we get the lessons with the planet going out beyond Mars. It's another lesson. You can sit things in the middle without it disrupting the other planets. That's obviously why they do that as well. And here I believe they're telling us when they put the moon so that it actually sits in line with the sun. They have to do this because the narrow horizontal band of the sun is that strong, the UV burn us all. I actually think this is why they do this, so they move the moon further away. There has been a report of the moon moving further away, I'll show you now, and only a few months back, blamed by the fact that the Earth's rotation had slowed. I can assure you when we hit the plane of the sun again, the inner plane here, or the inner ring, this is 93 million miles from the sun, this one 186 million miles, twice as far. That's what's going to happen. What happens when we move in from the outer ring here, we get stood up. The planet starts off flat with a flat cycle like that, still has a precession. I'll show you how the precession goes because I believe the precession is only on one end of the planet there, and I'll show you why I believe that's the case. I even thought that initially is why I got a little bit distracted there from the pyramid cross section, but this is what's happening here. So when we move in from the outer plane, the Earth gets stood up straight here, and I will show you where that shows on more than one place now. On this rock, which is the one I found in that same hole in the river, when we've already discussed this, is talking about these are in actual fact exactly as we've just seen. The path beyond Mars, Mars' path, and our inner ring. So our inner ring of rotation is here, we're only halfway through. These are the two comets that are being delivered. The big one is in England, the little one in New York Harbour. This is going to be where we're going to do our next 16,000 years, which in real time is really still, it's just giving you how long it's going to take in how fast the Earth rotates. That's why the period is 16,000 years both ways. That's what this rock is doing, but what I've noticed here is there's a line here going straight up, just there. And it's at the end of here. So what I'm saying, this is 2 is saying I'm moving you in here, but I'm standing the globe up here. And I'll show you where else we have seen that. I'll show you one other thing, and the reason why I want you to understand this is the reason why they're telling us they stand it up here. Because they start putting people back on the planet here 500 years after this has happened. I'll show you where. Now I have showed you this image before, and this was one that was on a cave. I don't know where it is, I'll be honest with you. I framed this in a documentary about the underwater aerial in the Antarctica, and this image come up as person questioning whether that was what this was and what it meant. I, on the other hand, saw that and thought straight away I knew what we were talking about here. These lines here, I want you to take note of this. I just showed you the 3 lines on that rock. We've got 3 lines here. These are the flat ones, flat cycles where the planet is laid like this whilst it's pushed out to Mars. That's what this is representing, and this hand here, as we've already shown you, I'll do an insert yet again of the same thing in the Egyptian light bulbs. It's exactly the same thing. They come back and stand the globe back up, which is why you have the hand here. How do you stand the globe back up? It's just told you here, with 2 comets here and here. That's on the outer ring. So it's telling you that's what they've had to do to stand it back up again. And I thought that that was not a major event. It still obviously is a pretty major event. You're going to have 2 comets to do the task. Here we have 3 comets bringing us back in. Here, 3 comets. So I reckon here what we're seeing is 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 years transcending back in here. But they're having events the whole way. See here? And I think what they're doing here is telling us that we're putting people back on here. Right? We stand up the globe here. This is where it stood up straight. And this one here. This is where it stood up straight. So the globe is stood up straight halfway through this cycle, which is why it has the E here. It's the end of the cycle. And then we're putting people back on here. The reason they're doing this here, and the reason they're telling you this, is they can manage it. They can manage these with people on the planet. That's why they're telling us this. So in other words, we've gotten to a point of where we have to hit the globe again with major things. They're telling us here they know how to do it to a point where we're going to be okay, providing we do what we're told. In other words, get rid of this thing. This killing babies and eating and draining the blood of a baby. I don't know who does it. If it's a religion, I can tell you now, if you're the chosen ones, you'll be chosen all right. You'll be chosen to get off this planet, because that's not what they want at all. This whole sequence is a warning to each and every person on this planet about doing exactly that. The other warning is for dark-skinned races. The treatment of the dark-skinned races here I'll show you where we are showing that. It is those two things that are absolutely paramount. That our leaders they were supposed to educate the blacks, not kill them and rape their children, which is what they need them. This is what they've been doing. I wanted to come back here because this is the lesson. The lesson here is we can control the comets to a point and not kill everybody. Why would they be putting people on back here from Mars if they're going to kill them all? They're not going to. They're letting us know here there is a way and a means of doing things. They've been doing it for 15 million years. They know what they're doing. I wanted to show you that there, and we'll move on. I'm going to show you a few things on the globe now. The first thing I want to show you is when I decided to come up here and live here, I moved from a place called Newcastle, which is further down south, and I came up here and I decided to move to Wingham, which is where I live. Wingham, you come up off the highway here and you turn off the highway here and you go through here and you turn here and head off into Taree. This suburb here is called Purfleet. I want you to be aware of that, okay? The first suburb I drive through up here is Purfleet. I will move out a little bit so you can see where that is in respect to the town of Taree. This is the Greater Taree area here, or the township. There's a bridge across here, and down here is Purfleet. Purfleet is an Aboriginal settlement. Years ago, and not that long ago actually, all the dark-skinned people, the Aboriginal people, if they were in town here, they used to get a hiding. They'd get beaten up. They had to be back across this bridge by 6 p.m. every night, or they'd get the crap beaten out of them. At one point they had to be on that island there, otherwise they were going to be beaten up. This is in the 60s and 70s when we had the current Queen of England. I wanted to show you that, and also wanted to show you where Wingham is here. I've got Google Earth up here. What I wanted to show you was I've marked and tagged here Easter Island, and what I wanted to do was go to a place called Grays. Okay. Actually what I'll do is I'll go to Wingham first. Okay, so I'm going to go to Wingham first in the UK, which is in Canterbury, and when I left to go to New Zealand I lived in Christchurch in Canterbury. So what I'm going to do is we'll go and search for Wingham in Canterbury, and I'll show you where it actually comes up first as well, because the suburb at the end of this line is Wingham here. Right? This is where Wingham is. If you follow the line from Easter Island through London and come out the other end of it, like so, in other words straight through the impact, and go for 13,066 kilometres, you end up here, and the name of this suburb is called Grays. I wonder why. I wonder who made them think of that suburb. It's called Grays for a very good reason. What I've done now is I've drawn a few extra lines here because what I wanted to do was let you know why this is the case. Okay, so I've drawn a line from Wingham here in the UK back to Christchurch in the UK, and it is 220 k's. That's about the size of your comet that we've calculated from the bottom of Easter Island, 200 kilometres again. But what I wanted to show you was these lines here. If I go from Wingham directly to London, it's 99 kilometres exactly to there. There's also a school called Christchurch Grammar, not down in Christchurch, down here. Okay, not this one here. There's a Christchurch Grammar right here in London. This one here is exactly 99 kilometres back to Wingham. 99 being 3 lots of 33. And 97 is the other one back to London. So that's 2 kilometres short, which is why we've got 97. The day the hearings in Australia will take place on the 16th of November, and they will be here before then because they've got to have the trials on the 16th of November. So I would expect the bridge that I'm seeing down, which is the Sydney Harbour Bridge, will be down before the 16th of November. That's what's going to happen if our Prime Minister doesn't start talking about what has gone down here, okay? Because that school there, the Christchurch Grammar, this one here in London, is associated with the Hampstead Children's case, which is where everybody here, the children having sex with all the adults and the teachers and all the neighbourhood all coming in, getting involved. It's going to be smashed, I can tell you now. Absolutely smashed. So what's going to happen, this is, like I said, I wanted to show you that because, like I said, 13,666 from Easter Island to the suburb Greys. I wanted to show you that Wingham here, if I then do a search for Wingham in Canterbury here, and go and say for Purfleet, say. Purfleet is a suburb, I've told you that Purfleet UK, we'll go and do a search for that and see where it comes down. See, it's right on, right here near Greys. So I turn off the highway. Now I'm going to go back and show you what happens in Australia. The reason I've come back here is I wanted to show you that where the rock was found, which is right here, to the very house I live in Wingham, is 9 miles exactly. From there directly back to where I turn off the highway to come in here is 12 miles. As much of the effort as you have tried to make me think my eldest and youngest brother were involved in your lot, they were not. And you were trying to probably do that to try and get me. You ain't ever going to get me. You've been trying for years. A waste of time. You people are pathetic. I'm going to just read these numbers out for you. There's the area down here. When I get to my driveway here and come onto my property, the east elevation as you go up my driveway ends up with 3666 in my drive here. When you get to my doorway there, it ends up with being 58, the year I was born. I get down to the back here and I get 66 at my back fence because you've been there a long time. And that was as close as you were ever going to get, I can tell you. I have a lot of family involved in this. Is why I put this in here. They have tried to, well, they're involved in the murder of my mother the very day I set out to do all this. I was going to court the day after Australia Day and my mother was murdered the day before by certain family members. They know who and why she was murdered. Every senior federal politician in the Australian federal government, in every government we've had since John Howard, including John Howard, knew exactly why Mum was murdered. It's because my family was supplying children to their pedophile ring. I'm just going to insert a few images and chat to you about them now. The one you can see on the screen now, I've highlighted what I believe is the 4 sequences that we get that are unnatural and placed on the planet, and these are the ones where we rotate both anti-clockwise and clockwise. If we go anti-clockwise around the sun, we incur a very, very rapid acceleration of 1,000 kilometers an hour faster. 1,000 kilometers an hour faster, we are told in the message. As this message indicates here, we are seeing the pole, in this case it was the South Pole that got drilled out, and you could say, well, hang on a minute, Brian, the South Pole is still there. That's exactly right. The Earth was upside down in this cycle. It gets transitioned on the way back from Mars. So if I go back from this vision now that we see, this is the North Pole when it was the South Pole, okay? Now it's spun real fast and it's removed the landmass on the North Pole, which at the time was the South Pole. But the South Pole, which at the time was the North Pole, is still there. So our South Pole is still there. The reason that is because they have done what it is they've said they are able to do, and that is bore underneath as these are boreholes, they bore underneath the landmass so that when the Earth moves real quickly, the landmass actually snaps off and moves, you know, stays with the water, gets held in place by the oceans, whilst the Earth itself spins very quickly underneath the landmass. They obviously know what they're doing, but that is what we are being shown here, and I'll show you on the Tirumali Jan complex, or the temple, where on the temple it does that. Now the image I have on the screen now is, I've labelled them fast and slow so you can see which cycles are fast and which are slow. The 4 cycles that we're looking at here is the switching between rotating around the sun, either clockwise or anti-clockwise. Okay, that's when you go from slow to fast on the inner ring and slow to fast on the outer ring. It is the outer ring, therefore marked D, where the pole is destroyed, with the arrow showing that it's done that one fast, and it's let it run fast. That's how the pole has been destroyed at that point, to let us know it can be done either way. Also note the difference in time there, that in actual fact the fast one is longer than the slow one, whereas on the inner one the fast one is shorter than the slow one. On the outer one, the faster one is longer than the slow one. What that's telling us is that it is still able to destroy the pole even on the outer ring, where the fast speed there is not as fast as the inner one, but it is still fast enough at that point, even in the outer ring, to destroy the pole. That's one of the other lessons you're getting there. I'll move on, I'll show you something else now. Okay, the image I've put on the screen now is the one I've already showed you, and I wanted to bring to your attention the letters D10. Okay, now this is at the point where the planet has been laid down to bring back towards the inner ring. Okay, so we're moving back from Mars, and it has D10 there. What I would suggest that means is the day was 10 hours long and not 24 hours, where it's even quicker on the inner ring. I would imagine it's to do with the strength of the magnetic horizontal plane of the sun is reducing, which is why it doesn't have that ability to rotate the planet as quick. So I'm thinking that D10 there is telling us how many hours there were in a day at that point. In other words, it's moved it in, but it hasn't slowed it down at that point. The E, or the end of the cycle that you see there with the 3 dots across the bottom, are in actual fact the ones used both to stand the comet, to stand the planet back up again, and then 2 to slow it down. Okay, and it may be very well this event that I insert here that is below the Tunguska event, right, that I told you it needed to be slowed down, that's where we're actually seeing the Tunguska event, the one under Tunguska, the one installed here as being the impact that's being used to slow the globe at this particular point in time. Remembering that when it's running real quick like that, you have to have the slip underneath the continent, which is why I put the video up, the last video. I swear that they're telling us here they can manage it. This is why we're seeing these people put on in the middle of this happening, that they can manage the situation and protect the populace. That's what they're letting us know. We can protect what we want to protect. That's what they will do. I also wanted to install this image. This is, I'll be honest with you, I don't know where this one was found either. It's also something I froze during a documentary I was watching and understood what it meant. The right side, we are looking at the indication of the traverse between the 2 rings, the inner ring and the outer ring, and how it's done. You will also note on the bottom right side, you'll see a little bug or whatever transfers. It's on the south on one side or the bottom, and on the north on the other side or the top. That is saying that that's where they traverse and move the globe so that it swivels flat and then up the other way and changes the pole. And this is how, as you can see in the top indication there, top right circle has got a bit chopped out of the bottom. That's why I've just showed you those circles. It is the outer ring that was rotated very quickly and thus needed to be slowed down again prior to us getting back on the planet again. So we are, in actual fact, like I said, we are put on Mars during this process. We will be doing that. So whoever's left is about to learn a hell of a lot very quickly and be involved in some very, very marvellous things. I certainly hope I'm here, and I certainly hope my son is here to watch all this transpire. On the left side, you'll see that it does count to 16,000 years in plane with the sun, which is what I'd already told you, that we are looking at doing 16 years in plane with this. Oh, sorry, we are looking at doing 16,000 years in plane with the sun ahead of us now. The inserted parchment that we're now looking at is one we've looked at already. It's said to be damaged, but in retrospect, we look back now and say, well, no, it's not damaged. It's torn exactly where it needed to be torn to leave us a story. The story is exact. So therefore the parchment is not damaged. It is manufactured as is, made it appear look like it's damaged because the message is within the damage. I'm going to show you another parchment now. It is on the screen. It is out of the Dead Sea Scrolls. It is believed to be a parchment, one that's been damaged. I don't think so. I think what you're seeing here is a representation of the landmass on planet Earth when the very thing happened. So in other words, 15 million years ago, our landmass was one landmass like this. And if you can imagine the North Pole being the top of the parchment, most of the North Pole there, and if you look at the South Pole, there isn't any. What they've done is push land masses with these massive comets all over the world to a point we have them where they are today. It is not continental drift, it's continental push, continental shove. If you look to the right side of the parchment, you'll probably see the Asian side of things. The left side of the parchment, if you look closely, you will see what is the South or the African continent, I would expect there. So what we've seen, in my opinion here, is we are looking at the landmass and where everything used to be, a long, long, long time ago, and that these cycles around the planet and the movement in the outer ring and these repetitious hitting of massive comets, as in actual fact what's moved our land masses, created our mountains, and they probably do it in a very calculated manner because they have to have mass at a given point on the planet when we go into these rotational changes to keep the Earth balanced on the, on the cycles they put it on. It really is quite amazing. The image that I put on the screen now, I just thought may be worthwhile for those that are planetary scientists. I'm certainly not, and I'm not a physicist. I'm merely portraying to you the message being left here. A message that I started, as I said, if I said to you the planet is pushed out beyond Mars, if anybody had told me that a few years back, I'd have just thought, yeah, righto. But in reality, that's why I started the video off, showing where the wars have been. They have been trying to tilt the axis of a globe that cannot be tilted unless the planet is in plane with the sun, and we're about to get there very, very shortly. And to take up the plane with the sun and for the device in the planet to work, we actually need to be straight, which is what has to happen. These two comets have to hit us at exactly the right time to minimise the damage to the planet and to everybody on it. The reason I wanted to show you this is I'm absolutely certain when they push it out beyond Mars, they do it with one instance on the bottom of the pole, and it bounces off the top, bounces off the bottom, and then when I say off the top and off the bottom, I'm talking about the magnetic plane of the sun. It seems to be bounced off, bounced up, bounced down, and then it makes its way out there. Does not take any more occurrences to get out. It just gradually moves out on its own. Once again, it's teaching us what the planet does when it's off the plane with the sun. It only gets kept in the same position with the axis being upright albeit we do have a precession of 27,000 years and an axis tilt of about 24. It is the rotating vertical planes of the sun that keep us in the right place in respect to the sun. It is not the horizontal plane because we're not on it. So that's what these lessons are teaching us. Laid over flat, he does not stay in the same place. The rotating vertical planes are not in plane nor with the planet's poles, so it just moves out. And once again, when they stand it back up, they have to knock it in every thousand years, knocked in again, knocked in again, knocked in again. Why? Because it doesn't move in on its own either. So that's what they're teaching us. They're also teaching us that it didn't move in on its own when it was laid flat. It only moves out on its own. Okay? And that is why we're getting those lessons. When they stand it up straight, they still have to push it in, but they're pushing it into a plane of the sun with it twisting in the direction where it's going to go slower, not faster. That's why they don't have that issue there. Just exactly whether you get a jolt when you hit going slower, I don't know. I guess they'll tell us a lot when we get here. I mean, they'll tell us a lot when they get here. Now, I will go on. I'll just insert a few diagrams, or I'll just insert a few pictures as I go along and just finish up now. Mr. Morrison, I'll just say once again, well, I've had 6 to 7 months of trying to communicate with you, and you have not even paid me the respect of even putting a pen on a paper. I would expect from what I'm seeing, sir, that the other reason we have 97 and not 99 in that area, even when I go from Wingham to London town, it is 99 exactly. You're not there, mate. That's why you're 97. You and your deputy will not be there. That's what's going down here. You haven't acted as you were supposed to. You were told about this long ago. You have not paid me not even the respect to put a pen to paper. I have gone through your education department, ministers for education. I have gone to the Australian Geological Society, even from the point of view of these images that you were seeing on the rocks. No, they didn't get back to me. I went and then I emailed this guy and spoke to him as well. You know him if you're an Aboriginal in this country. You know him as Mr. Dobson. He also didn't get back to me. So he might be of coloured skin, but I can assure you he's a white man through and through, by the way I see it from here. You certainly have not got back to me, Mr. Dobson, with some of the most critical things that I wanted you to put the name of the Aboriginal elder, the oldest one that you could possibly remember, and have him on a book, and you don't even bother getting back to me. Honestly, I see the bridge down on multiple rocks. The Sydney Harbour Bridge is down. It's not waiting for a comet for that to happen. What will happen if a decision is not made and you have not left, or at least voiced, the opinions of leaving the Commonwealth before they get here, which is the 27th of October. It'll be Wilson's birthday. Exactly. That's when they will come in through the atmosphere, and they will be over our cities in rather big ships. That's from that point forward. If you haven't said anything on TV, mate, you're not going to be here. That's as simple as that. You and your deputy will not be here because you will be gotten rid of. You have been given ample opportunity to do so. You have not done so. You've got a couple of videos on TV talking about we might look into you know, the family court, see what they're doing. Oh, have they not shifted enough children into your pedophile ring yet? I know what the family court does. I went through it. That's exactly why I kicked off in 2003, risking my life, because I wanted to get rid of what I saw. I got stared down the nose of a man with a law degree and a former police officer telling me, you'll never be able to change it. Yeah, he's the one that murdered my mother. Yeah, I'm going to change it all right. It just goes to show that what you can do if you get off your backsides and not get scared. Get out there and get into it. You've got to risk a lot, but you've got to play your cards very sensibly or you're a dead man. And speaking of dead men, Mr. Morrison, That's where you're going to be, mate, if you do not get on the telly and say, listen, this bloke up north, we don't really care who he is. This is what he has found out. Da, mate, because I'm not kidding. Your days are running out, man, and the way I'm reading them, you're already gone. So you can put some stupid, deceptive, deceitful things on TV and make out like you're going to do something. Your days are drawing near here, man. I'm not kidding. Your days are close to the end. You're 6 weeks away from possibly not being here. That's where you are. 6 weeks away from your life ending. And if you haven't sorted out the rest of the stuff, well, then you're checking out. These people here, I tell you, their actions to me speak that they, even with all the experience they've got, 15 million years of coming back here looking after their homeland, because it was their homeland as well as ours. I would imagine we all lived together here at one point with the reptilians and humans being fully aware of who everybody was, is what was going down here many millions of years ago. We've been left in this situation because of a planetary issue that one of our stars decided to vacate for whatever reason. It may have been caused and done so deliberately to get rid of the planet that us white people were on. Because quite frankly, I'm a white person myself, but I do not even for a minute think I want to go and rape somebody's child, or chop them up and eat them. Where the hell does that come from? I'm not kidding. And I can tell you, I've risked my boys' lives to go and put an end to this. Both my boys said, yeah, okay, Dad, risk our lives, it's worth it. And that's what we both had, all of us had to do, all three of us had to do exactly that, come to the conclusion, we've got to risk our lives here. It's worth changing. If we can change it, change it. So my boys say, yeah, okay, let's go and have a go. They give me the permission. I go and do my things, and then my son finds these rocks, and it just leads to us uncovering everything that you have hidden from not just us, but mankind worldwide. Every one of you leaders has been conjuring to bomb and kill millions of people in the hope to tilt an axis of a planet that wouldn't tilt and never was going to ever. And they probably knew that, so they've been getting at your lot. And all of your lot have done the same thing. You've believed them. You've then gone about bombing the hell out of these places when in reality the people that were always going to be dealt with were the people that were here, that were into 666. Baby murder, rape, kill, etc. That is who was going to be judged on these days. It was not everybody. The people coming here were going to make sure mankind, us, the good guys, were going to be safe and sound from this point. I had somebody say to me the other day, yeah, well, about God and Jesus and all this sort of stuff, so anti everything. I said, hang on a minute, that ain't what religion's about, or faith. I said, it's about faith. It isn't who's telling the story here. We'll get the story right here, but I'll be honest with you, these people, 15 million years they've done that, and still, even now, their actions speak louder than words. Their actions say without doubt they even know themselves there is more, and that their understanding of spirituality and existence beyond death, they've got it in their message. Wouldn't even be here otherwise. Why would they even bother coming back here? What, because it's their planet? Or why would they bother with all the rest of us? That's why they're trying to get you to do the right thing. Do the job you got properly. You're supposed to be there to supply, loyalty to us, not royalty. We don't bloody want royalty. Get rid of that. Expose them for who they are and leave the Commonwealth, because I'm telling you now, you'll be leaving the Commonwealth without doubt on the 20th, because it won't be there. One of the things that's going to happen is that if, in actual fact, you try and protect what it is you have. So you've either got to put them in jail or step off the seat. That's what I said to you, Mr. Morrison. If you're not got what it takes, get out of the bloody way. Because we need somebody to stand in where you are, doing what needs to be done, which is exposing it
on national TV, taking over the airways of every television station and getting on there and saying your bit. And saying it truthfully, I can tell you now, saying anything that would be a load of rubbish would be a complete and utter waste of time. So it must be fully explained to the Australian public, el pronto, or I'm absolutely certain you and the Deputy Prime Minister will not be there. I haven't tried to contact him personally, but I have tried to contact you many, many, many times, mate. You have to get your backside moving, sir. And I'm absolutely certain that should you do so, well, probably one day we will meet. Should you not, well, we won't meet. I won't meet you ever. I'll watch your dust blow across Sydney Harbour with the bridge and everything else down there that's going to get cleaned up. It's going to get cleaned up either way. That's the one thing you can be certain of. And it will cleaned up worldwide. So it's whether you want to be here to see what transpires after, or you're ready to face the perils that you've put yourself in. I can tell you now, because the perils are there. They're even shown by the people with 15 million years of experience in universe, way more about the universe than we know. They know heaps, yet they still act in a way, in such a spiritual manner, and that is shown by all of the marks on all of the rocks. They're on every rock. You know, you don't do that if you don't care about the people that are on that planet. So they're looking after the humans that are worth looking after. I hope you've enjoyed looking at the images you've seen. They are all off rocks. Some of them are absolutely astounding. They are absolutely amazing. Some of the stuff that I've been able to get off over the months is truly, truly amazing. The skills and technology shown and the manufacture of the way these are done is absolutely profound. It is absolutely profound. And to think that my son, who was the one that sort of kicked the whole thing off, well, he was in actual fact standing behind me the day I swung that letter through the Kirribilli House gates to the security guard on Christmas Eve and said, "Can you make sure John Howard gets this?" And he was standing right behind me, and that little boy is the one that picked the rock out of a river that has led to the solving of the pyramids without going into a Masonic lodge the way it's probably supposed to have been done. And I'll say one other thing. This installed picture here is the parchment. They are, both sides of this parchment are a classroom environment. There are people sitting down and a teacher at the end of the classroom. I can tell you now, I've written to university lecturers. I'm telling you, the one bunch of people that I would not like to be as well as a teacher, taking public money, pushing a load of rubbish given to us by the English monarchy, and that is what you've pushed in our schools for 100 years now, well over 100 years. It is a complete load of rubbish. It needs to be replaced. It's going to be. That is one thing that's going to happen. It's whether you want to be here to read that book or not, because from where I'm standing there's very few people in that federal government, and if any, that are still going to be standing there even to be able to reach for the book to read it when it gets here. Because that's the reality here. And the UK that you want to grasp hold of so much, I'm not kidding, it's not even going to be here at all as a landmass if in actual fact the situation does not change. And this, oh, well, we're thinking about looking at the family law courts. Oh, are you now? Well, by the time you think about it, it's going to be smashed into pieces. That's what's going to happen here. So you can do it your way if you wish. I'm pretty sure their way is going to be far more permanent and el pronto. That's what they want. Speed, no messing around, on the TV, every radio, every TV. You have the right. You're a Prime Minister of the federal government, and every one of those mob, whether they be radio, TV, has to get a federal government licence. And you've got the right to say, well, with this discovery, blah, blah, blah. Do what needs to be done, sir. Otherwise, well, they say, move it or lose it. You're going to be losing it if you do not move it, sir. I'll leave you with that. And everybody else, thank you very much. I hope you appreciate the time I have been putting in here. I'm glad I didn't walk away, to be quite frank. I'm trying to save about 100 million lives here. That's how much people are going to die, all of the UK. And if you boys in the if you boys and girls in the Parliament think you're going to be okay, you're going to go and get somewhere or get in a plane or do this or do that, there is nothing you've got that will start. And if you're in the air, it will stop. And if you're away from where you were supposed to be when it lands, they will go click like that. And your RFID chips that you wanted us all to have, well, we've already got them. And you've got them. And they can pick you up from wherever you are on the planet and go bang, put you 60 seconds from disaster. That's probably why they named that film or that video series was called 60 Seconds from Disaster, for a good reason. That's where you're going to be. They'll pick you up from wherever you are, wherever you've flown, wherever you have gone. You'll be picked up, put straight back under to watch the thing land, and you'll get 60 seconds. That's all you're going to see. So I would take the other option, as they would prefer you do. They prefer you meet a natural death. That is so obvious in their message, and so obvious that that's why you know without doubt. They know without doubt there's a spirituality moves on after you've left your carcass behind here. And where that goes is very well defined on what you do in the real world. The spiritual world is where you go, and I'm not kidding. The bad place is obviously not good if they're saying to you, even now, they're still wanting you to meet a natural death. So in other words, they want you guys to get the lesson as well, their lesson, the truth. And it would never ever have gotten this bad if we didn't push that load of rubbish from England down the throat of everybody in this country. It's time for it to end, and the time is now. That's all I've got to say. Thank you very much. This is Brian Whitten and ET Art. Have a nice day. Bye.